Hello, this is Jack Anthony, and I thought I'd try something here. Each week I write a little article to give out to the National Space Defense Center people. Some are current events, some are astro, and I'm in the middle of a three-part series on the foundations of mission operations. Specifically, the second major foundation, to always be aware that suddenly and unexpectedly we may find ourselves in a role where our performance has ultimate consequences. That's an important thing to realize if you're a space professional, that your role could truly have ultimate consequences. These foundations I was introduced to in 1982 while at Johnson Space Center. My former boss, Nick Holmes, was hosting me, and I learned about these principles that are used down at Johnson Space Center. So I invite you to pause here and study them, but we'll move on because in this presentation, I'm going to summarize three main points of my second paper I wrote. So let's go to the second chart. The foundations are ever changing, and in 1967, Gene Kranz, the famous flight director and great space leader, added tough and competent to those foundations. It was right after the Apollo 1 fire. And as you can see from this illustration, his talk to his troops ended like this. Spaceflight will never tolerate carelessness, incapacity, and neglect. Somewhere, somehow, we screwed up. He went on to say, we are the cause. We were not ready. We did not do our job. We were rolling the dice, hoping things would come together by launch day, when in our hearts we knew it would take a miracle. From this day forward, flight control will be known by two words, tough and competent. And the definitions are provided there. These are two of the tenets of the foundations, and they're very important to take to heart if you're a space person. Okay, so then in the article, I move on to talk about two people, two amazing people. John Aaron, who had the unique opportunity to be a flight controller, and a real good one. He was called an ECOM, electrical, environmental, and communications experts. And he played a key role in the successful launch of Apollo 12. There you see the launch, and there you see John. Shortly after the launch, the booster was struck by lightning, and that led to some pretty amazing times, some hair-raising times. This slide, a little wordy, but it highlights what happened. The Saturn V and Apollo 12 were hit by lightning, causing a power surge. The command module essentially went dark. Was the command module fried by the lightning strike? Well, there was a lot of thinking going on that they needed to do an abort. But John Aaron remembered in some test simulations, as he looked at the scrambled up telemetry, he remembered a system called the Signal Conditioning Electronics System. And he learned how it worked. So he surmised that the SCE being set to an auxiliary would get them their telemetry back and prove the command module was okay. He quickly said over the loop, flight, try SCE to aux. But the flight director and Capcom weren't sure what that is. But then he said, do it. Well, he didn't really say that, but it was one of those just do it moments. You know what I mean? The trust was in John Aaron's knowledge. Apollo 12, Houston, try SCE to auxiliary. And Al Bean flipped the switch, and eureka, the telemetry was immediately restored. So John kept him from aborting. He kept them on their way to the moon. Way to go, John Aaron. This next story is about a lady named Jennie Stein, whose performance during the Challenger STS-51F mission in July of 1985 was critical because they had a problem and she helped them figure out what was going on. Here we see some focus of Jennie in the mission control room and the launch there. And also there she is with three legendary flight directors, including Gene Kranz, the guy with the red tie. And she's there at her crew position at the ready to support the launch. Let's find out what Jennie did. This is a summary of what happened. Space Shuttle Challenger took off, and at 5 minutes and 43 seconds, the shuttle main engine number 1 automatically shut down due to temperature transducers failing. It wasn't clear to the crew or mission control if in fact the sensors were the problem or the rocket engine had the problem. Challenger had 2 motors still firing, and it was pretty far in its ascent, so it couldn't fly down to the European landing site. It had to keep going. So abort to orbit was the call. What happened was Jennie was, as the booster flight controller, was placed in a sudden and unexpected role because SSME number 3 sensor failed. And Jennie was watching all the other telemetry, and she saw that the other independent telemetry sensor was good. So therefore, she knew that it was an instrumentation issue, and they could continue firing the SSMEs. Because of her intimate knowledge, she determined the sensors were flaky and the SSMEs were good. She had an incredible tough call to make, and her call had ultimate consequences to inhibit the sensors and keep going, and it proved she was right. Her quick assessment and call was crucial, and it ensured that Challenger could make it to orbit. It had to burn for another hour and 40 minutes, but Challenger made it to the orbit. It was a little lower than expected, but they got the mission done. I want to thank Jennie for taking the time to talk to me about this. I had a chance to get in touch with her. That was cool. Mr. Bill Foster, a NASA flight controller, is the man who alerted me of Jennie's great effort on the Challenger STS-51F mission. And special friend Kevin Chilton, who is a retired 4-star general and shuttle pilot. Kevin helped me learn how all this went down and the intricacies of it. In my paper, I go into much more detail, and it's written superbly, mostly because Kevin rewrote what I wrote. Well, there you have it. These papers I love to write, and I thought I'd share with you the content of them, of this second one, where we learned about what it is to be tough and competent. We learned about John Aaron, and we learned about Jennie Stein, flight controllers who really made a difference, who were placed in a sudden and unexpected role, and their performance had very positive and ultimate consequences. Well, hope you enjoyed this. Take care.